I'm Lex, and this week I will be bringing you some games with a deck designed by the team that recently acquired me, East West Bowl. This is the 4-color Cryptolith Rite deck. So I've talked about this week how Standard is a format that is focused around having these blowout, unbeatable, just like super powerful plays. So I'm going to discuss this deck in the context of what it does that creates this. So against some decks, that play is just activating Westfield Abbey. Not a lot of decks right now, but some still die to a 9/7 Ormondal. Reasonably powerful decks, reasonably good at putting it together. Next powerful play that this deck puts together is Cryptolith Rites plus one of the Mana Sink creatures, so Duskwatch Recruiter or Eldrazi Displacer. Once you start activating one of these more than once a turn, it just cascades into some other blowout line that's usually insurmountable. Sometimes Displacer just exiles all their stuff and then it just taps everything, kills your opponent or whatever. Plus all your creatures kind of work with Displacer, even the ones that aren't immediate blowouts. So there's that going on. The next thing that you're trying to assemble is triggering Reflector Mage 3 to 4 times. Usually there's some decks that can win with just 2 Reflector Mage triggers, but this deck really needs 3 to 4. But fortunately, if you're time walking your opponent with Reflector Mage twice, you're going to probably get the third activation. And the easy way to do that is with Eldrazi Displacer. So you don't need Rites for this. It's actually pretty easy. You just get to 6 mana and just like double Reflector Mage every turn, which is pretty much unbeatable. And then the last big thing, which is kind of what the flashy, I don't want to say namesake because it's the Rites deck, but like the big thing that everyone knows the deck does, which is you have an infinite combo. So Brood Monitor enters the battlefield, makes 3 Scions that you can set for colorless. Eldrazi Displacer takes 3 colorless mana and turns it into a Flicker. Flicker, Brood Monitor comes back, makes 3 Scions, etc., etc. You have infinite sacrificing of Scions. So with Catacomb Sifter, that means you get to scry your deck, and then eventually you find a Zulaport Cutthroat, put that on the battlefield, and then infinite sacks is infinite Dragons. Pretty straightforward. If you have a Duskwatch Recruiter on the battlefield and like enough mana, you can actually go from Displacer, Monitor, Sifter to immediately finding the Cutthroat. But often it's just you pass the turn and then you set it up in your next draw step. So that's really what you're doing. Collecting Company is a card that I kind of called out in my article as like an immediate, insurmountable threat. And this deck is that, but only because it's really putting together all these interactions. If you look at the rest of the cards in the deck, they kind of just get you to this point. So you've got Loam Dryad to really make your mana work. Sifter scries you to the pieces you need, puts bodies on the battlefield, decent to Displacer, and you can actually set up this scry loop with it. So you displace your Sifter, you sack the token, displace the Sifter again. It costs 2 mana to scry one. Doesn't come up a lot, but is reasonable. Recruiter on its own digs you to your other creatures, and when it flips, it just lets you dump your hand of 3 drops. Then Visionary just kind of is in your deck, and then doesn't take up a slot. You would think the 4-color mana is bad, but it's actually pretty good. The trick is that basically everything comes enters the battlefield untapped. So you got some Abbeys. This is as many as you can really afford. You got a bunch of Pain lands. Again, enters the battlefield untapped. Your base green, so you have more force, 1 of each land, and only 3 Evolving Wells to search with because multiples leads to hands that have double tap lands, which is really bad. So no battle lands, no shadow lands. You really have to curve out with this deck. Sometimes you'll find yourself missing white or blue, but the increase in power level compared to just the 2-color deck is definitely worth it. Looking to the sideboard, I will want to mention one thing. So you have Collected Company in your deck. You can't really go under 25, 24 cards to hit with it. So that often means if you're boarding into spells, you have to board out some number of Collected Company, or not Collected Company because the card's great. Brood Monitor is Cryptolith, but I found that you can't board out more than 2 Cryptolith Rites without really compromising your mana base in the 4-color deck. Plus, also, Rite is just still a great card. It's just cut usually because of the Collected Company issue, but also because against the decks with heavy sweepers, you end up in spots where you can't ever afford to draw a second one. But the first one still does good work, I think. One other thing before sideboarding, there are 2 Zulaport Cutthroats in this deck. Half of that is I've actually had a lot of spots where because of Cryptolith Rite, you actually just want to cast a Cutthroat early, and if it dies, you don't want to lose the ability to combo later. Just another cheap creature that makes mana with Cryptolith Rite is kind of important. It's another Collected Company hit. But it's also a concession to the fact that I'm playing this deck on Magic Online. In reality, the Brood Monitor combo is a lot quicker to execute because you just pick up your deck, cut to the right portion, which is the Scry Infinite shortcut. You don't get to sort your deck, but you get to pick it up, choose a section, and then position that card on top. But on Magic Online, you have to actually go through the motions. At which point you eventually find a Cutthroat. Two, it takes a little less time. Not too concerned about timing out with this deck, but it does make for a better viewing experience if the combo takes less time. That said, I've only had one opponent not concede to the combo. Thank you for putting up leagues Magic Online where people value their time more than anything else. Playing another match quickly is great value, and really once your opponent has infinite combo, you're pretty sure you're going to lose. So the odds of it being better to not scoop are so low that you get better value by just playing another match. Moving to the sideboard, I've split it up between collected companyable cards and not companyable cards. So we've got Enlightened Ascetic and Dromoka's Command to fight over opposing Cryptolith Rites. You can also take out Always Watching with these if needed. Dromoka's Command is kind of nice there, too, especially for that. You got some Fleshbag Marauders. There are some decks that are all threats that matter. Specifically Grixis Control, where Fleshbag is really nice. It's also really nice against Grixis because you're boarding another card that can be accompanied, and it also lets you cut down on Reflector Mage as you're boarding out Rite against their heavy sweeper deck. So you board down on Rites and Lone Dryads there a little bit. It makes it harder to cast your white-blue spell. And Fleshbag kind of eases the mana a little bit while still letting you have access to the requisite number of things to kill their Kalitas, the Dragonlord Silumgars, and the Jaces. And I've got Tireless Tracker. I wanted another creature, like a companyable threat against the Grixis decks because I kind of felt like I was running out of gas or needed a way to kill them. So this came up. I'm not sure if it is or isn't better than Pitiless Horde. It's possible that you want to go on the all 5 power haste creature plan. There's spoilers there. But kind of just trying this out and seeing how it goes. Your big sideboard trump is Reality Smasher. So when you're boarding out these Cryptolith Rites, your Brood Monitors, your Cutthroats, and not being a combo deck anymore, you become a 5/5 haste attacking deck. And this card's really good. Like I said, you may want to double down and just be all 5 power haste creatures with Pitiless Horde, but I'll have to see on that. I've got a Languish, kind of just, Mize out white weenie with it. The humans aggro decks are all soft to it, including the new Bant human aggro deck that plays Collected Company and all that stuff. That it's not really new. It was actually around since the first Star City opened this part of the tour, but Yu-Yu Watanabe picked up that deck and did reasonably well at Grand Prix Tokyo with it, I believe. And they have some Transgress the Minds. They're not actually for control. Yeah, I've tried it. It's just not good to board that way. You end up with like weird answers, like maybe one, but they're really just there to stop ramp. Because the ramp deck is easier to pick apart than the control deck. The control deck is just like all cards. Like if you take a Radiant Flames, maybe those have a Language, or like there's too much redundancy there. Whereas the ramp deck, you can easily pick one of their pieces out, and then their hand kind of falls apart. So this is the 4-color Rites deck. I've been having great experiences with it. I did go 2-4 at Grand Prix New York with it, but that was mostly because I played against 5 Language Kalitas decks in 6 rounds, and then did not get to play Magic against the 6, really. So you keep playing against these green-white base decks, though. This deck is great, and hopefully get to show off some of that tonight. And even beyond that, if I get to play against some Grixis, those matchups are really interesting. I really like them. So I think regardless, you get to play good Magic with this deck, so it should be a good time.